Minister, I heard you outline earlier some of the specific measures taken in the budget to help alleviate the cost of living and increased energy costs for some people, for specific sectors. And those were very welcome, but they were the targeted measures. Tonight, I think we're looking at universal measures, the safety blanket for the general public. And Minister, while the payments we speak of tonight are welcome, I believe they do fall far short of what's needed. For those who are on low incomes, for those who are on low to middle incomes, for family carers, for example, 75% of whom do not get carers allowance. And it was the one thing I was hugely disappointed, or one of the things I was hugely disappointed with in the budget, is that carers allowance is still not a qualifying payment for fuel allowance, but that's for another day. Now, there's been a lot of discussion here tonight about a cap on energy prices, and I have to say I'm not convinced that a cap on electricity prices at last year's bill amount, as it were, is a good solution, because it would do nothing to incentivise cutting back on energy usage, and in fact might be a recipe for a greater threat of blackouts. And crucially, those with bigger incomes and bigger homes would benefit on the double. Their bills would be static, so that's a big saving, but also because they have larger homes, they could freely use more electricity and more energy, and they wouldn't pay an extra cent for it. It would also mean writing a blank cheque for large energy companies. So all in all, I'm not convinced that the best way to support those who really need help is by putting a cap on their electricity bills. However, I also believe that this bill doesn't go far enough, but you still have time to amend it. People have already been hit with huge hikes in their electricity bills, yet the first payment under this legislation won't kick in until December. What about the huge bills they got in August, in September, in October, and they will get them in November also? How will those bills be paid by the carers I spoke of, those on low incomes, those on middle incomes, those who don't have €10 left over at the end of the week? An extra €150 or €200 hike in their electricity bill is like a mountain to climb. So before they get their first payment to help cover the increase in the November-December bill, people are already in debt. People who have always paid their bills on time are struggling. I honestly believe we should ensure a single €400 electricity credit before Christmas and the two €200 credits afterwards. This would mean many families would not be facing into Christmas already saddled with bills that they cannot pay in their entirety. Because we risk people running into arrears. We risk people going to money lenders just to keep the lights and heat on. A double payment before Christmas would be a big help. It would allow people to breathe and not to be worn down with the worry of unpaid bills before Christmas, without ever having to worry about what would come afterwards. As I said earlier, people who don't need these payments will receive them because they're universal. But is there any way, Minister, that the owners, for example, of holiday homes should not receive a €600 payment for each holiday home? I believe there's over 60,000 such homes in Ireland. That saving alone would go a long way towards financing the initial €400 electricity credit that I'm speaking of. Also, perhaps you might clarify for me, Minister, if somebody has a second home and they are renting it out on Airbnb and charging well for it, do they receive these energy credits? I mean, if they do, you've had a long time to prepare this legislation. You knew it was coming. It's not good enough that all of those people would be able to get the benefit that we're speaking about. Minister, lots of TDs have spoken about the standing charges. Please tell me, because I don't know what's happening. A standing charge is meant to reflect the actual or fixed cost of providing the electricity in the first place. We urgently need to refer the savage increases in standing charges to the energy regulator. We see that some providers have pushed up the standing charges for residential customers by more than €300 in some incidents. So your €200 electricity credit before Christmas won't even cover the increase in the standing charge for some people, let alone help with the increased cost of their electricity. Now, I know that tonight's bill is not about support for businesses, but because I think I might have an extra minute here, I also want to add my voice to those who are calling for an immediate support package for businesses. So many small businesses, small retailers, people in so many different sectors, they're really in a bad way. And you have to know it, Minister, because you have to be receiving the same emails that I'm receiving. Many of these smaller retailers in particular, especially small supermarkets that have delicatessens, that serve, that have frozen food, cold drinks, whatever, their costs have just gone through the roof. They're eating into their working capital. Many of them have gone right through it. They have nothing left to pay their huge bills, and their businesses are on the knife edge. They're not looking at investing in solar panels or anything else. They don't have the capital up front to install them, and in truth, Minister, many don't have the heart to install them because they're really concerned that they won't have a business after Christmas. So finally, Minister, can I say to you that domestic customers right now see their electricity bills skyrocketing, their standing charges increasing for no reason that they can fathom. They've been given no reason as to why that's happening. And they see the obscene profits of energy companies. And what do they see for them? They see one €200 electricity credit before Christmas. It's just not enough, Minister. It'll leave very many people in debt and some in despair before Christmas. I would ask you to double that credit to €400. It really would help.